Welcome to the AVAIL Leadership Podcast, where our goal is to help you take your leadership to the next level. My name is Virgil Sierra, and today we're talking with Andrew Momon. Andrew is the campus pastor at Victory Midtown in Atlanta, and he has a unique passion for both leadership and fitness. Thus, his upcoming book, LeaderFit. Lean in, leaders, because this is going to be a great conversation. Let's get started. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the AVAIL Leadership Podcast. My name is Virgil Sierra. I'm the AVAIL media host. I'm also the lead pastor of Vertical Church, aka Iglesia Vertical, in South Florida, where we are one church, two languages. And as always, here at AVAIL Leadership, we aim to please. We aim to bring quality content, great material for leaders. We want it to be relevant. We want it to be practical. We want it to be leadership. That's what we're all about at AVAIL Leadership. And as always, I'm accompanied by an amazing guest today. He is a man of God. He is a pastor. He's a leader. He's got a message in his heart for all of us. And I have the privilege and honor of presenting he's the current campus pastor of Victory Church Midtown in Atlanta, Georgia. Pastor Andrew Momon. It is a blessing to connect with you. I know some of your closest people call you Pastor Mo.
Yes,
Pastor
absolutely.
Andrew, how do you feel to be here on the AVAIL Leadership Podcast?
Man, Virgil, I am excited. I am super excited about what's happening today. It's my pleasure and my honor to be here with all those who are watching, listening, watching this or listening by replay. And most of all, I'm so glad to be here with you. I believe this is going to be a very fruitful and impactful time. And I think we're just going to have fun today. So I'm excited.
I love it. Hey, for everybody out there, if you're listening to the podcast, you're hearing the voice of a godly man, a leader in Pastor Andrew Momon. You might hear me refer to him as Pastor Mo or Mo, because that's what his friends, everybody close, call him. Pastor Andrew, I know there's people that know you, love you, especially the people who've been connected with you throughout these last years. But for those who maybe they're getting to know you today, can you share a little bit about your story? Just kind of bring us into your world, where you came from, where you are, what you're doing, and then we'll get into a good conversation about a book that's coming out. I know there's a book coming out, 2021, yeah. An amazing book. We'll get into that, LeaderFit. We'll get into that in a second, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, what I'll say is, number one, I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, and I am blessed to, be big brother to brothers and sisters that have looked up to me in different times over my life. And, originally born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So moved around a little bit, moved to Atlanta when I was right around 12 years old. And that's where really kind of a lot of what we're going to talk about today kind of sparked off. And so in moving into Atlanta around the age of 12, I started to discover a lot about myself. I started to discover who at that time didn't know, have the language that this was who God was creating me to be and how he was fashioning me. But as I look back, there were very formative years around that time. So in moving to Atlanta, I remember being a little guy, this guy who kind of like, a little unsure of himself, a little bit shy, a little bit introverted, a little bit just kind of curious about different things in life. And I remember moving to Atlanta, moving into one of the areas with one of the best high school football teams in the nation, not knowing that I was entering into that school. And then I remember going out there and seeing that I was like a little bit behind the 8 ball when it came to physical development at that time, and even my experience in sports and things of that sort. And so I just remember back at that time, from the age of 12, even before I got into high school, fitness has kind of been a part of my life, and it actually was a passive part of my life, or even what I would call a subliminal part of my life back when I was 12. And what I mean by that is that my parents, like my dad, he would discipline us by having us do push-ups. So I was actually being physically conditioned, not even knowing it at the time, through my discipline. And so from the age of 12, fitness has been a part of my life, where not just fitness being something that I did as exercise, but it was something that I started to do as a part of my routine. Something that I talk about, and even in the book, is I remember when I was 12 years old and I asked my dad, hey, I want to get bigger. I want to get in shape. How do I do this? And he gave me a very fundamental answer to that. He said, hey, you're going to have to get discipline about doing something every day. And so what he coached me to do was to actually just start doing push-ups every morning and every night. And what I actually would do is I started at 20 push-ups, and every week I would add 5. So what I would do is as I rolled out the bed, I would do my 20 push-ups and get my day going. And then right before I went to bed, I would do those 20 push-ups. So much so that it got up to where I was doing about 260 push-ups every morning, every night as a 12-year-old. And it was like clockwork. So it was a part of my discipline, a part of my makeup to get my day going. And so as I grew through that, that was ingrained in me, you know, from the fact of, hey, if you want to grow in something, you have to be committed to it. You have to do it. You have to make it a part of your life to where you're not even thinking about it anymore. It just becomes a part of you. So that's how I kind of lived my life even early on. And I still to this day walk in those characteristics and walk in those traits. And so how that carried over is that when I got to high school, when I saw that I was behind the ball in a physical development standpoint, I knew that there had to be a separator with me, and that was my work ethic. So work ethic really began a journey for me where I was committed to always getting better. And when I was committed to being better with that work ethic, what it did is it created a separation from me and other people. It created a difference, you know, from the person who was just talented and the person who's going to work hard. And in leadership, I'm probably already maybe getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but in leadership, there's always things that, you know, you have to understand that somebody's always watching you. And when you realize that somebody's always watching you, what you grab from that is that, hey, let me always steward my moments right now. Let me always do what I need to do. I actually say that with the pun intended. I tell people, hey, steward your moments. And I say that because I say, hey, your seconds, they become your minutes. Your minutes become your hours become your days become your weeks, etc. But when you steward this moment you're in, what you're doing is you're giving everything you need to give forward because you want to get everything you're supposed to get out of it. So as I started to walk in that and operate in that work ethic, what I realized is that people were starting to watch me and see how I had that work ethic. People still to this day that know me, even people that went to college with me, people that know me from when I was younger, they say, hey, you have not changed. You've been consistent. You are always a hard worker. And what I found was that even through fitness, even through work ethic, what I didn't realize that I was actually leading through my fitness. I was actually leading through my work ethic. Because people saw, okay, if he'll do this over here, that means there's a consistency that actually bleeds over and other things. So I realized that I was actually leading through my fitness. And for me, you know, fitness was directly correlated with my tenacity to lead at a high level. And this has stayed with me. And this is a part of my life message, which is why we're talking about this today, where I really believe in order to live life and to lead effectively, you have to be fit. And we can unpack that a little bit later. But I really believe that as a calling card for me, that in order to lead effectively, you have to be fit to lead.
So, Pastor Andrew, you already have us leaning in. I'm already leaning in, and I know that's one of your things, getting people to lean in.
That's one of my things. I say that often when I'm preaching.
Lean in. So let me just say this. You got it to a point where you're doing over 200 push-ups just in the morning when you wake up. I think there's some people who haven't done 200 push-ups in their entire life, but that's another podcast. All right. So let's jump into the book that's coming out. I know you're putting the final touches on the new book, which is LeaderFit. LeaderFit. Can you tell us kind of the big picture? I mean, I think you're already you're kind of taking us there already. The big picture, the message of LeaderFit, and also kind of what you want leaders to take away, kind of the macro scope, the big overview of LeaderFit, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, even if you just look at the word LeaderFit, you know, it's a compound word that basically puts together leadership and fitness. And, you know, this book really kind of just came from, again, it being my life message. And I truly believe that fitness, and even the definition of fitness, it states that it's the quality of being suitable to fulfill a particular task or a role. So when you are operating in fitness, that means that you are suitable, you're ready, you are fit to actually walk this thing out. And so as I talked about this and as I started to think about this concept, I didn't want to get too cute with the name and all of this stuff, because what I did, my life message revolves around leadership and fitness. So to put that out there like that allows me to be very simple. When people see that word, as I've been sharing it with different people, as I've been kind of running it by people, showing them the concept, they're like, oh no, that's you. That's you all day. And so as we're looking at this, as I look to write this book, what I really believe is that high capacity and sustained leadership is connected to your fitness. Let me say that one more time. High capacity and sustained leadership is connected. I believe it's directly connected to your fitness. Now, you might be saying, hey, just like you said, Virgil, hey, I'm not doing 250 push-ups. I'm not running on the treadmill. I'm not doing all that. What I'm not saying is that you compare your level of fitness to somebody else's level of fitness. Mm-hmm. And what I'm also not saying is that fitness is simply relegated to a physical activity only, or you having strenuous exercise as a part of that. What I'm saying is that when you ask yourself the question, are you fit? Or if you want to be fit, what you're really saying is, am I able to respond to the challenges of life, to the challenges of leadership with strength and confidence when the moment requires leadership from me? That good. Right there, when you ask yourself that question, what you're able to do is you're able to respond and say, listen, you can't be a leader if you're not fit for it, if you're not prepared for it, if you're not able to respond. I want to drive this home a little bit. Now I'm getting my Sunday morning preacher kind of starting to come out of me right now. But what I believe is that so many people miss moments because they're not prepared to respond to the challenges at hand. And what we try to do a lot of times, we try to get ready in the moment. And what happens a lot of times when we're in the moment, when we need a direct response, when we need someone to actually step up, it's too late to get ready.
It's too late.
I say this all the time. Stay ready to keep from getting ready. And that's why when I work out, when I'm doing different things, again, let's talk about fitness. I'm talking about fitness in your body. I'm talking about fitness. Yes, this is a part of this, being physically fit. But how many books are you reading? How many articles are you reading? Are you subscribed to AVAIL to make sure that you're always getting these character-filled, Christ principle, leadership development tools? And if you can't say yes to that, I really want to kind of submit to you, maybe you're not preparing yourself. Maybe you're not conditioning yourself to be in a place that's ready to respond with strength and confidence based on what the moment requires. So as we're looking at this and as I've prepared this book, I really believe that there's a direct correlation between the state of our health and our ability to lead at a high level. Watch this, for an extended period of time.
Nice.
Listen, anybody can lead for a moment, Virgil.
That's what we want. That's what we need.
Yeah. Anybody can show up for a moment and do something and kind of be a flash in the pan. We see a lot of that. But what we need right now, you just said it, we need this. What we need in society today with things changing, with so many different things going, we need people that are going to be able to lead at a high level for a long period of time, because only what's sustained is actually the things that matter. Only what sustains are the things that matter, because again, something can come and go, but are you able to sustain it? And so, in order to do this, in order to lead, it means you have to be able to sustain a pace that others depend on. As a pastor, I'm a person that I understand that how I set myself up and how I prepare myself, I have people that are counting on me to be in the game for a long time. Yeah. I have people that are counting on me to practice what I preach. I have people that are counting on me that when I say, hey, we're going to go on a journey together. I say this often when I'm preaching. I say, what I'm preaching right now, don't take this as a sermon. Don't take this as a message. Don't take this as something I just prepared for you to kind of throw out there. I want you to know this is a key in a part of the journey that we're on. And if we can grab this, listen, we all need sustainability so that we can actually finish this journey strong together. I'm gonna be quiet for a minute because I want to let you kind of talk, because I want to make sure we get what we need.
Let me get a word in.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
This is good. I like that. That's why we have leaders and guests like you that come and shoot some wisdom, that shoot some leadership. Okay, so one thing that's really resonating with me right now in what you're saying is, especially when I look around and I see amazing leaders, and I see a lot of amazing leaders in a lot of places. One thing that I see a hunger, I see a drive. You said the word tenacity. How do you find that? Because sometimes I see people who are in a leadership position, but I don't see that, right? I do see leaders that when I watch, man, that person is hungry, they're driven, there's tenacity. But then there's people who are in leadership roles, even in churches, even pastors. I just don't see that hunger. I don't see that, why is that? Or what would you say?
Well, I believe sometimes people do things out of function instead of doing it out of calling. And I mean, just right there. Right. I mean, I think I say it like this. There are a lot of good things that I could do, but everything is not the God thing for me to do. And so many people get caught up in doing the good things, the things that they're able to do. I mean, and I think that even comes with being focused. That comes with being conditioned. Because even for me, just let's think about this as working out in the gym. I could run around the gym and do 100 different exercises in the time that I'm there. But me doing 100 different exercises will never allow me to focus in and condition a particular part of my body that needs the attention. And you have to make sure you give something attention for a sustained period of time for you to see progress. So I really believe that, like you're saying, there are a lot of people who lose passion because they're just doing something that they're not called to do. They're doing something that somebody told them was a good idea. And for me, I believe we have to get to a place where we stop looking and measuring what we do based on what we think somebody else's return on investment is going to be. See, a lot of people jump into different things because they feel like, oh, I'm going to do this thing because this is what society says will make me a lot of money. This is what, people that are the experts say this is the trending thing up. But are you called to do that? That's the question. Because when you're called to do something, you do it from a place of strength, not a place of labor. Let me say that one more time. When you are called to do something, you do it from a place of strength and not a place of labor. And when you're doing something from a place of strength, you get joy out of doing it. You are happy about doing it. No one has to wake you up. Your alarm clock can't even be the thing that gets you up. You're already up looking at the alarm clock saying, hey, you forgot your job description because you don't even need it anymore. So I think, and I hope I answered your question, but I think a lot of times people don't operate in that passion and that tenacity because it's laborious. It's labor to them and they're not called to it. They're doing it out of something that was outside of what they were really wired to do.
Yeah, I think hashtag strength, not labor. That's a good one for Pastor Mo here. What motivates you? So we're seeing here LeaderFit, leadership and fitness, right? These are things, you just said it. This is what describes me, leadership and fitness. What motivated you to do this, to put this book, to write it? Because this is coming out in 2021, everybody. LeaderFit by Pastor Andrew Momon. Pastor Mo, what motivated you to say, I want to write a book on this?
Well, I would say this. So this is my second book. I wrote a book back in 2015 called Be the Answer. And it was a book on servant leadership where we understand that, hey, in order to be an answer to a problem, you have to actually step out there and you have to serve. And that the greatest among us will be those servants. And so I just referenced that just because here it is. Here's my reason for writing books. I only write books that I'm passionate about, and I only write books that actually share and extend the reach of my life story. Because here's what happened. The reason I wrote the first book is because I was getting asked so much the same questions over and over again from different churches, from different organizations. Even I was being asked to speak and I was traveling, I was doing different things like that. But what I realized is that this book can actually travel way farther than I can on a plane or on Zoom calls or on doing conferences. This book can live beyond me. So when it comes to LeaderFit, it's the very same thing. So many people are asking me about workout plans. When they see me, they look at me and they see my physique and they say, hey, you're in shape. Are you a trainer? And I have to kind of answer that a little different. I was like, I am, but I'm not. I don't do this professionally as far as train other people, but I do train people for life. And so many people were asking me about workout plans that I said, okay, I can send you this. I can do that. You can follow me on Instagram. You can watch my workouts and different things like that. But then an increasing number of people we're also gleaning from my leadership experiences. So I'm getting all these questions about, okay, what does it look like to lead in this way? How do you do it? How do you operate in the tenacity that you operate in? How do you operate in the consistency that you walked in? And so what I found was that there are so many correlations between how I wanted to prepare and take care of myself physically with how I was showing up professionally in my leadership. And so that was the greatest motivation, because, again, I realized that there were ties together. I realized that there was a correlation that I think people take for granted. And, if we can get this and grasp it, we can grab this leadership fitness and actually know how and learn how to lead for the long haul, not just for a short time.
I love that. Now, talk to me a little bit about this, Pastor Mo. There's different areas that maybe you've observed where a leader's physical health actually intersects and impacts their spiritual health or their mental health, their emotional health. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, here it is. Number one, I think the most obvious thing when it comes to fitness and leadership, or fitness and leading, is that fitness becomes a stress reliever and an equalizer. When you're working out, you're sweating and you're working out, you're releasing those toxins that are in you that create that stress and that even create disease and things of that sort. There are endorphins that are released. There are chemicals that are released. And so I think the correlation between leaders and fitness is that we all need healthy outlets. And what happens a lot of times, and why there's not a lot of leadership sustainability, is because there are leaders that are leading at a very high level. And here it is. We all have to release our stress somewhere. And what happens, let's talk about this. What happens is that a lot of people choose outlets that are not healthy and that are not beneficial. They are things that will be counterproductive to them. And so I believe, I'm a firm believer in doing something, one, that will be healthy for you, that will be a healthy outlet, and that will be good for you, but also do something that's going to benefit you back. See, when it comes to fitness, what you have is that you have something as you're releasing stress, but at the same time, it's building you up and it's making you stronger. It's making you more sustainable. It's making you more conditioned. It's making you able to be able to go for a longer period of time. And so some of the principles that I even see, if I can, that are correlated within health and fitness and leadership is this. When I'm working out, there's this thing in me that actually pushes where I have a commitment to finish. A commitment to finish. And I often have said, as I've taught leadership around the world, I often have said that everyone says they want to walk in excellence. And my definition of excellence is a commitment to finishing. So here it is. If you're in the gym and you're working out, listen, while I'm going, there are many times, don't let me fool you, because I might, have a few muscles and stuff like this. There are times when I'm working out where I want to quit. There are times where I'm like, man, I said I was going to do 20 reps. I'm on 14. This is enough. Let me put this down. But in my mind, because of how I'm built, because of how I'm wired, because of how I've been practicing these principles. See, this is not something you just wake up with. These are principles that you have to practice and continue to refine in this discipline. And so for me, what I find myself doing is I'm working out, I'm doing different things, and I'm doing it. And I'm saying, okay, I'm going to commit to finishing this thing, because there's going to be something in my leadership life that I'm not going to be comfortable with, that I'm not going to feel like doing. But because I've developed this muscle, not just my physical muscle, because I've developed this discipline, this muscle of discipline, I can finish, I can push through. And here it is. I have a part in my book where I say this. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a glimpse. I need you to lean in for those who are watching on the podcast. Lean in. What I say is discipline is my superpower. Discipline is my superpower. See, it's not about you being the most talented. It's not about you knowing everything. It's not about you even having all the connections. What it is about, can you commit to finishing in a process that you started?
That's good.
And so when we're looking at this thing in health and fitness, my ability and our ability to push through uncomfortable, temporary moments of pain, they actually yield a great return on our investment and our efforts. And so as we're looking at all this stuff, I'm just saying, working out, it gives us healthy outlets. Many people don't have healthy outlets. And here it is. My thing is this. Can you take time to trade off temporary pain for a long-term result of fruit?
That's right.
So that's a big thing for me that I think it correlates a lot, and that a lot of people don't see at first glance when it comes to fitness and leadership.
That's so good. I love that. I love it because the truth is, the plain bottom line truth is, Pastor Mo, is that if you're not healthy physically, it's going to affect how well you can lead. I mean, it'll catch up to you. So here's an interesting thought that I want to ask you about. Sometimes there's people that go to the two extremes on this.
Yes.
Right? There's the people who say, hey, who cares? You know, I'm going to get a new body in heaven, right?
Right.
I don't even care. Like, the side of, what I'm going to eat whatever I want to eat. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And I'm not even going to rest. I'm just going to do my thing. There's that extreme. And then there's the other extreme that could almost be like an idolatry of health, right? Health worship, right? Worship of exercise. I don't know. You know, whatever those two extremes are, why do you think this is that people have that struggle sometimes?
Well, I think that's something that happens in all areas of life where we have to choose to walk in. And this is a word that I want to bring clarity to, because a lot of times people try to say balance. You know, we talk about balance a lot. And I personally don't fully ascribe to, you have a balanced lifestyle. I ascribe more to, I want my lifestyle to be a life of harmony. And I say that because, when you talk about balance, especially when you work in ministry, when you're leading, there's always going to be seasons and times where things are unbalanced because of the fact that certain times call for you to do more in ways that you couldn't have predicted. So there's no way to just balance that out. But what you can have is harmony. You can know that if I work hard, if I have to put my time out like this, I need to make sure that I'm intentional about taking time on the other side of this or right after that, and in instituting even things in my everyday life that brings me to a place of harmony, which also really brings me to a place of peace. And so I think what happens with people who kind of go to the extreme, they kind of go all in on one thing or all out on the other, not recognizing that you're not living in harmony and that you'll never be able to live a sustainable life with that. Yeah, some people can say, well, I don't need to work out. I'll get a new body in heaven, but you're here now.
Right.
And you might as well get the most out of what you're doing here. And that kind of goes back to what I said earlier about stewarding your moments.
Yes.
Are you going to allow yourself just to kind of let this time go? When we get to heaven, I truly believe God is going to look at us and say, what did you do with the time that I gave you?
Yeah.
What did you do with your dash? Did you waste it? Did you eat yourself to death?
Mm-hmm.
Did you work yourself out to death? Did you only spend time in the gym looking and actually trying to build the external and you didn't build the internal?
Right. That's good.
You didn't build your spirit. You didn't build your personality. You didn't make sure that you had peace. You didn't make sure that you were not a mean Christian, or a mean leader, or you abuse those who are on your team. So I just really believe what happens a lot of times, people kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. And sometimes it's an excuse to not walk in discipline.
Yeah.
I really believe, what you just said, the reason why a lot of people kind of go to one extreme or the other is because it sometimes gives us the reason to kind of say, well, I don't have to do that, because it takes discipline to operate at a high level for a long period of time.
Yeah. I think some people have a struggle too. I think sometimes, whether it's self-esteem, and this is just me, right? Thinking whether it's self-esteem, self-image issues, insecurities, and then you kind of hide behind other excuses. This is a great conversation, Pastor Mo. In a season like we're living right now, right? None of us expected at the beginning of 2020 what we were going to face in 2020, and even now we're into this episode is being recorded here, February of 2021, and our world has been impacted, and this may have fluctuated depending on who you talk to, but sometimes people take their physical health for granted. Let's talk about leaders specifically. Why do you think that sometimes leaders take their physical health for granted?
Well, the first thing that I'll say is that I don't really know if leaders, or just people in general, but let's talk specifically to leaders, always realize the connection and the correlation to fitness and their productivity. And not only that, I don't think that they always realize that, like I said earlier, that somebody's always watching you. Here it is. Yeah. For me, I'm the type of person that I'm not going to ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I'm the type of person that I really try not to ask people to do things that I don't do and that I won't practice even today. But what I also realize is that a lot of times people will look at you from afar before they listen to you up close.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say that one more time. A lot of times people will watch you and listen to you from afar before they actually come up and listen to you up close. Because the reality is people actually listen to more of your lifestyle more than they listen to your words. And so for me, what happens a lot of times is that people will see me from the outside, not knowing what I do. I don't necessarily probably come off when people just see me out in the streets, basically the way I dress, the way I operate, the way I work out and different things. People wouldn't, their first guess wouldn't be that I'm a pastor.
Right.
Their first guess wouldn't be that I'm a pastor. What happens a lot of times, people come up to me, ask me if I'm a trainer. They ask me if I'm an athlete. They ask me if I'm in the music industry or something like that. Uh-huh. And then for that, it opens the door.
Right.
So let's come back around to answer the question that you asked. A lot of times people don't understand that their fitness and their lifestyle actually either opens or closes the door for people to see what kind of discipline they walk in and how they want to follow them. And so I just believe that a lot of times we take it for granted. We don't look at it and we don't understand, again, how those things correlate. Fitness and leadership correlate so much that if you can get people to discipline themselves, even the smallest ways, it changes the trajectory of your organization. It changes the output of what you can do. Because again, when you feel like quitting, not if, when you feel like quitting, when you feel like you don't want to do something, you have to have something in you that you've conditioned, that you've exercised in a way that you can turn that button on. And you can say, I'm going to push through this. Even my team personally, my staff, what we see is that they see that this is a part of my lifestyle. So it's funny that from the staff, from the church, you start to see people take on attributes like you. And so the biggest thing is that we really, as leaders, we want to model something that's productive. And so if I had to leave, one nugget of like that whole correlation of why it's important for leaders to actually take their fitness very seriously, is that you want to model something that's productive that will give you an edge. Yeah. I truly believe, Virgil, I believe that my lifestyle of fitness gives me an edge in my leadership life because I'm able to turn that gear on when I need it.
Yeah. I would agree. As somebody who grew up, playing sports, even played a little high school basketball and baseball and volleyball, and I always appreciate, and even now when I have my seasons and I commit to, to working out, to doing exercise, it seems like my weeks, they're more productive. It seems like I'm more alert. I'm more ready, and I see this, and I want you to, if you can take us a little further, what are some maybe principles, maybe even wisdom that you've discovered in scripture about health and wellness? Is there something you've been able to draw out from God's word?
Absolutely. And it's a somewhat common or familiar verse of scripture. And I'll read it to you. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 26. I'm going to actually read this from the Passion Translation because I have a lot of passion, if you can't tell.
Do it.
Let's go ahead and turn this on. So 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 26 and 27, it says this: "For that reason, I don't just run for exercise or box like one throwing aimless punches, but I train." Hear that word. That's train good. Like a champion athlete. I subdue my body and get it under my control so that after preaching the good news to others, I myself won't be disqualified. See, I hear so many things in that scripture. Number one, what it says, is that I'm not just doing this for exercise. So let's be very clear. Good. I'm not just doing this for vanity.
Right.
I'm not just doing this so that I can wear a nice fitted shirt, or I can wear those European clothes, or I can wear the skinny suit,
skinny jeans.
The skinny jeans. I'm not doing it for that purpose alone.
Right.
What I'm doing is I'm exercising and I'm making sure that I discipline myself, not for aimless things that don't matter, but I'm training myself like a champion athlete because I'm going to need to win this game of life.
Yep.
I'm going to need to make sure I'm able to show up as my best self in this game of life. And so when the scripture even says, talking about principles, when it says I subdue my body and get it under my control, what we're saying is that I'm disciplining my body. Discipline is my superpower. I'm making sure that I'm not letting the circumstances of life drive me to what I'm going to do. I'm letting my calling drive me to what I'm supposed to do. And I'm going to put my body in subjection and say, hey, I don't care if you don't feel like doing this right now. This is for this cause I've been called. For this purpose, I need to show up. For this person, I need to be the leader that I'm called to be. For this organization, the people that are counting on me, I need to be able to put myself in position to win. And here's the last part of this principle that really is very important to me, where it says, so that after preaching the good news to others, I myself won't be disqualified. Here it is. So many people are disqualifying. We're disqualifying our witness because people are looking at us and they're saying, especially people that are not saved, that are not in the church, they're looking at us and saying, why would I follow that?
Right.
Why would I actually, want to change what I'm doing to go to that level? So for me, I'm always looking at things and saying, as we look at the scope of the world, what can I offer? What can I do? What can I bring to the table? How can I show up that gives somebody a picture of something better than where they are? That gives somebody a picture of a standard. See, again, the Bible says this: when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Lord will lift up a standard against it. I often say this: we as leaders, we should be the standard bearers. We should be the standard that is lifted, that when the enemy comes in, when challenges come in, people can look at us and say, how am I supposed to operate? I'm going to look at Mo. I'm going to look at Virgil. I'm going to look at Sammy. I'm going to look at Susie and look at her and say, I can watch her and follow her model of discipline to actually follow that so I can win also.
I love that. I think you're right. I think sometimes I was actually talking to a young leader from our church recently, and we had a prayer service. We were doing 21 days of prayer and fasting. We had a prayer service, and he had a responsibility up on stage, and he was going to say a prayer. And actually, he was one of the musicians as well. And even though it was kind of 6 a.m., kind of early, some people kind of come sometimes, and they attend in their sweats and stuff. The way that he was presenting himself on the stage wasn't exactly the model that the example that we've been modeling. It wasn't, just if we're honest, it wasn't the best. It wasn't appropriate. And I had to talk with him. I said, listen, I love you, man, but just your appearance can allow people to make a determination about whether or not they care what you're even saying.
Come on.
And so
or whether
connecting
you
what you're exactly.
Whether you care. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that's so interesting. That's why I think we as leaders need to really lean in here to you, Pastor Mo, because I think what you're bringing is something that it might be hard, especially if we haven't been living maybe a healthy lifestyle, or if LeaderFit wouldn't exactly be in our top 10 list of descriptions of ourselves. Just if we're honest, it might be hard, it might be convicting, it might be challenging. But hey, that's why we need a message like this, from somebody like you that this has been a passion in your life, a passion in your heart. What would you say as we wrap up this AVAIL Leadership podcast, and then I want to get to a little bit more how people can connect with you and all that. But let's wrap up these questions. What would you say to some of the AVAIL readers, some of the AVAIL podcast listeners? They feel that they don't have enough time to invest into their health or into getting into some kind of exercise routine or cardio, or they feel, it's too late for me. Talk to the young people, talk to the people, it's too late for me. It's not going to make a difference at this point for me. What would you say to those people?
Man, what I would say, number one, is that you have to start somewhere. I mean, it's not about, trying to, what do they say? You don't have to eat the elephant all at once. The way you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. But I want us to write this down. This just came to me as you were asking that question. If you're taking any kind of notes, if you're going to watch this and replay it, I want you to hear this. It's not always about the intensity. It's about the consistency.
Okay.
Let me say that one more time. It's not always about the intensity. It's about the consistency. And what do I mean by that? You don't have to try to do it like I do it. You don't have to try to get out there and work out for 40 minutes. But what you can do is you can take a walk. What you can do is you can do, 3 push-ups and add 1 every week until you build yourself up. See, a lot of times what happens is that comparison is the enemy of our progress.
Right.
And so many times we're comparing ourselves to other people when God actually asks us to look at what I've given you. As a leader, we have to be able to look at where we are and start where we find ourselves. So I would say it's not always about the intensity. It's about the consistency. Just do something continuously. Do something. Get active. Again, you might be that person that feels like, oh, it's too late. No, it's never too late to make progress, because progress is simply a step further than where you were in the last moment. So I would say to that person that may be a little discouraged and maybe looking at yourself, you may be looking in the mirror and say, oh, he's talking all this fitness stuff. He's a young man, whatever. No, I say you can start today.
Yes, come on.
And just be consistent. And then the other last thing that I would say is that true fitness and leadership, they're really not things you do. They're a state of being.
Wow.
True leadership and fitness is really not just this thing you do. It's not about all this activity. It's not about how much you're going to sweat. Really, it's really about who am I looking to become?
That's good.
See, I remember before the COVID-19 season, while we were in the middle, we were doing pivots and things like that, trying to figure out what this new season will look like. I kept asking the question to our staff, to our church, to our extended family at our other 2 campuses. And I still say this to this day. On the other side of your challenge, who are you going to become? I'm posing that question to everyone who's watching, who's listening. On the other side of what you say might be the challenge, on the other side of this tenure, on the other side of this path that you're on the other side of the leadership challenges that you're having, who are you going to become? And we all have the opportunity to become something better by taking that one step. They used to say it like this: put one foot in front of the other. And that's what I want to encourage everybody to do. Just put one foot in front of the other. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't think that your way of doing things has to match up with just like somebody else's, but be disciplined. Let discipline be your superpower. Yeah. Walk in consistency, and I believe the rest will pan itself out.
Such a good word. Leaders, we're being challenged today in our leadership and our fitness. LeaderFit. Hey, Pastor Mo, how can people connect with you? Can they connect with you on social media? Is there a website? Where can they find the book? As I know that's in the works in this process, but Absolutely. How can they connect with you?
Absolutely. Personally, on Instagram, I am Mo Beast 1. Mo Beast 1. M-O-B as in boy, E-A-S-T and the number 1. You can find me there sharing about my lifestyle, sharing about my fitness journey. And you can also follow us on Momon Leadership on Instagram. So on Instagram, it's Mo Beast 1 and Momon Leadership. You can find things about myself and my wife with her book, her resources, and different things like that. On Facebook, I'm Andrew Momon Jr. Andrew Momon Jr. That's M-O-M-O-N. And then we also have our business website for our leadership consulting services, which is MomonLeadership.com. MomonLeadership.com. And that's the way you can find us online. Personally, let me say this, for those who may be interested in following us even with the church, it's Victory Midtown, because there are a lot of resources where I believe what we're talking about today carries over into the ministry. So you can also follow us on Victory Midtown on Instagram and Facebook, and victorymidtown.com.
That's so good. Thank you for sharing that. Before we wrap up with some final comments, Pastor Mo, I want to just mention about the AVAIL Journal. I know you're well aware of the AVAIL Journal. I know you participated and you got things coming up in the AVAIL Journal. This AVAIL Journal is a blessing. And by the way, everybody listening or watching, the AVAIL Journal, you can actually get a free annual subscription. We've been doing this for a while. We continue to do it. That's what I love about AVAIL. There's a spirit of generosity. Yes. A free annual subscription means that for the next 4 that come out throughout the year, you're going to be able to get a free annual subscription, quality content. Pastor Andrew, what would you say about the AVAIL Journal? Have you experienced it?
I have experienced it. I have read it. I give them away. I recommend them to people just because there are so many rich resources in them. And I'm not just saying this because I'm on this podcast, or I'm really serious about this. I remember the first one that I opened up and I was like, man,
yes,
this was free. I was like, the depth of information the people that we have access to. A lot of times people say they want mentors and they want people to come into their lives and spend time with them. Here's an opportunity. Get the AVAIL journal and you'll have a book full of introductions to mentors that can help your life. I absolutely recommend it. I absolutely endorse it and believe that great things come out of it, because it's not just like a lot of these little kind of fluffy articles. There are things that actually give us tools to be equipped as leaders.
Yes. By the way, you can access this. You can claim your free annual subscription by going to availjournal.com. Availjournal.com. It's a good way to get it. You can also go to freeavailoffer.com, which is what they put here, freeavailoffer.com. But go ahead and do it. I think you're going to be blessed by it. You're going to hear from great leaders like Pastor Andrew Momon. You're going to hear see great articles and also great resources. This has been such a good podcast, Pastor Mo. I'm excited because I can't wait for the book to come out. I can't wait for LeaderFit to come out. I want it. And then I got to ask you when you bring it out in Spanish and Espanol, because I got a lot of Spanish leaders and friends around the world that are going to want this too. Give us some final thoughts as we kind of wrap things up here. What do you want to leave the leaders with today?
A thought that comes to my mind. Number one, you hear me talk a lot about discipline. And, I think a lot of times we disqualify ourselves knowingly and unknowingly because we haven't operated in discipline in areas. Mm-hmm. And so for me, what I really want us to understand is that discipline is transferable. It's transferable. If you can establish discipline in one area, what happens is that you're able to carry it over in another area. See, when I'm working out, when I'm doing those things, that same discipline that allows me to push through an uncomfortable moment is the same discipline that allows me to deal with something in my pastoral leadership journey, in my business leadership journey, in my home, in my marriage. When I know that we need to deal with something tough and we need to walk through something, I'm going to be disciplined enough to push through the small opportunity of pain or discomfort to get to the place of great result. And so I just really want to encourage all of us to start establishing very small disciplines, because they all start small and we build upon each other. So that's what I would say. I just want to really encourage us that when we really get that discipline, what we'll find is that it becomes ingrained in us, and that we'll find ourselves operating in autopilot in a good way, because now we're not thinking about how we will show up. The discipline in our lives actually sets us up in the right way that we'll show up really well everywhere we go.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Discipline. These are the words I'm taking. Discipline, consistency, tenacity, passion, health, leadership, fitness, LeaderFit. That's what Pastor Andrew Momon is all about. Pastor Andrew, Pastor Mo, this has been such a blessing for me. It's been a great ride on this AVAIL Leadership podcast episode. Can I just say thank you for your leadership. Thank you for pastoring your church well. Thank you for being obedient to God's call in your life to put this book out and to bring this message out. On behalf of the AVAIL team, on behalf of me and my team here at Vertical Church, we just want to say thank you, man. We honor you. We bless your life, and we believe God's going to continue to use you.
Well, I appreciate that, Virgil. And I want to say thank you all for the privilege and the opportunity to be here, to be a part of this. And if I could say one last thing, it's burning in me. And I was going to let it go, but I think I need to drop this. Even with this platform of AVAIL, this is a support platform that is really allowing all of us to get something that we couldn't get ourselves. And when I think about that, there's this term that I use that I want to just share with us, that we all need spiritual spotters.
Come on.
We all need spiritual spotters. As we talk about working out and lifting weights and things like that, a lot of times we get in trouble because we're trying to do something on our own, or we think we're by ourselves. And what I want to let us know is that while we're walking through this process, some of us that are watching this, that are listening to this, you're under some weight right now. You're under some weight that you're trying to lift by yourself. Wow. And even if it's something that in your development, you're trying to figure out, how do I lead better? How do I get more equipped? Hey, AVAIL has showed up today. I've showed up today. Virgil has showed up today to be a spiritual spotter to you, to equip you, to come alongside of you, to make sure that you don't get crushed by the weight, but that I help you lift the weight and help you condition yourself to where you can carry the weight. So I just want to encourage everybody on the line, don't let this moment go by without tapping into the resources. Don't let this moment go by without tapping into even LeaderFit, because I believe there are going to be some things that as you're going through and you're navigating, we will be able to come alongside of you and be spiritual spotters to help you to condition yourself to win, not only in your personal life, but in your leadership.
I love it. I hope that's a chapter in the book. If not, put it in Spiritual Spotters.
Amen.
Love it, love it, love it. And I think it's true. I think, man, we need A, for accountability sometimes, but B, I've seen the America's Funniest videos of the guy trying to lift 300 pounds by himself, and then, it's like on his chest falling, right?
Yes.
And I think that happens. It happens in ministry. It happens in the marketplace. It happens in churches. And we get in trouble when we don't have spiritual spotters. I love that. Thank you for that word. And to everybody connected right now, whether you're listening or watching this on YouTube, thank you for connecting with the AVAIL Leadership Podcast. Make sure you connect with us next week, where we'll be with another leader talking about some great leadership insight, great experiences, and great resources that are going to help you in your leadership journey. We'll see you next time here at the AVAIL Leadership Podcast. We hope you've been pumped up by this LeaderFit talk with Andrew Momon. Remember to stay connected to AVAIL for Andrew's upcoming book, LeaderFit. For more leadership resources, check us out at theartofleadership.com. And don't wait any longer. Claim your free annual subscription of the AVAIL Journal at availjournal.com. As always, I'm Virgil Sierra, and we thank you for connecting with us to learn the art of leadership here at the AVAIL Leadership Podcast.